Good evening. My name is Sheila Armstrong. I'm an alcoholic. And I want to thank the committee first off for, inviting me, one. That's always nice. And for taking me home. I want to thank Mary in advance. She's supposed to give me a ride tomorrow. I always kind of like give people that give me rides, give them a little juice so they don't forget me. And it's happened. And thank Marcy for picking me up. And Dawn, Ralph gave an awesome talk last night. Is Ralph here? Okay. Bye, Ralph. And guess he heard what he needed and he left. And so that's why I stay the weekend. I don't want anybody talking about me anyway. So and Dawn was just as awesome as ever. I love. I've heard Dawn before. We've invited her to Oklahoma, and she just always touches me, and just a beautiful story of recovery. And I'm blessed to be around people that have been here in the programs long before I got here, and that lit the way and kept the torch going, so that drunks like me could find a place to come. That I'm so grateful that the women in AA that were here, and the men that, they didn't get theirs and leave, because who would have been here? Who would have had the coffee on when I arrived that night? Nobody. Who would have had the door unlocked and the meeting going early and the coffee and just a handshake and sit down? And, I can't be ever too wonderful in AA. My life has never gotten so wonderful that I didn't need you. Isn't that good? Every so many years, some sort of hell breaks loose. And, so I've never arrived, trust me, as you'll hear. And I think that's one of my great blessings, is because I've stayed desperate, and life has happened to me. I believe that life happens to us even if we stay sober. I don't live in a bubble, and life will happen. And I need you today as much as I did on December 15th of 1984 when I walked in these doors. And I am as active as my sponsor is Peg Martin. She's in Bellevue, Nebraska. And I've told you my sobriety date and that I'm an alcoholic. And my home group's the Phoenix Group. It's at 227 West Main in Norman, Oklahoma. We have meetings every night at 8 o'clock and at noon. And if you're ever there, please come and see us. And, I think those are the things that are important for me, is to, know that I'm an alcoholic, have a sobriety date. That's always good. And stick to it, and try, and having a sponsor and a home group that I'm committed to. And the girls I sponsor, they know exactly what nights I'm going to be there. I have committed meetings. If I'm not at my committed meeting, I call two people and let them know that I'm not going to be at my committed meeting and why, and I make it up that week. I think that's how. If I stay accountable, then I'm not isolating, and I don't just drift off. I watch a lot of people I've loved over the years. There's a lot of people that got sober in 1984, and I think there's one person in my home group, which is about this size. I think there's one person that still comes to meeting, he and I, and that's not a very good odds, And I've heard many times Clancy says that 50% of the people in this room will die drunk. That's the ones that make it to AA, and that's bad odds, gang. And that's scary. And I would like to live sober. And so there's a lot of work. I drink a lot of booze, as I will tell you in a minute. I drink a lot of booze just to stay even. And I have to do a lot of Alcoholics Anonymous just to stay even. Just to act like a cleverly disguised normal person, It's like, my God, my husband coaches a cool baseball team, and there's like baseball moms, and I got to fit in with that mess. And good Lord. And they're all like the recipe gals, and I got a recipe today. I'm so excited. I'm going to bring it back there and think I'm normal. And, because they think I'm very strange, and that's fine, because I'm as normal as I'll ever be. And that's with 3 to 4 meetings a week, sponsoring girls, coming to stuff like this, having 2 committed conferences that I work on, and sponsoring a lot of people, and that's just to act halfway normal. It's not guaranteed either on a day-to-day basis, but gosh, I give it a try. And I have to mix in the world, and I've been sober a while, and I still can feel different. I can sit at a baseball game and think, I'm just not like these women. They're all so womany, and and so they have everything. They got all this stuff in baggies and all together, and I am such a space cadet. I'm reaching in the back of the car trying to find the batting glove. Where in the heck that thing go? And everything's in a little Tupperware thing. I want to do that. I want to be that. And, I aspire. And, sometimes I look like a Tupperware mom. Not often, trust me. But, and then I just go, yay, and I get so proud of myself. I get all excited, and then I lose everything. And, I don't know where the batting glove is. Mom, where's my cup? I've been hearing that song for 10 years. It's like, do I look like I know where that would be? It's not my job to keep track of the cup, son. And, but I just live such a fun life. It's never boring. And, I do. And it's because of Alcoholics Anonymous. I get to go to baseball. I love baseball. I love sports. And I love watching my sons play baseball. It's one of my great joys in life. And I feel touched by God when I'm watching my kids do the thing they love the most. And, my dad gave me my great love of sports. My sponsor loves sports. Her and I will talk about football for the first 5 minutes. In the fall, she's, she said God humbled her to sponsor a Sooner because she's a Husker. She hated the Sooners till I came along, and soon she had to start liking us. And she comes to Norman, and I take her to the football field, to Owen Stadium. She puts her foot on the grass. She goes, I'm on enemy territory. She's so funny. And it's just a neat life. And I was born to 2 normal alcoholic parents. Absolutely. They were divorced before I remembered they were married. My dad and my mom divorced when I was like 2. My brother was 1. We lived in Oklahoma. My father moved to California. He married another woman and lived his life there. And I really didn't meet my dad till I was 7 years old. And unfortunately, my mother had the disease of alcoholism. I say that because I do know that, and she was very ill from it. She drank a lot. She left a lot. She was a blackout drunk, and she would go on binges. She'd be missing for months at a time. And we'd go to grandmother's house on a Sunday and have dinner, and they'd say, okay, she'd say, you got to go take a nap. And I hated to go take a nap because I knew when I woke up she wouldn't be there. Because she, the insanity would return as I know it today. The insanity would return, and she'd have to go. And I'd hear her car. I wouldn't sleep, and I'd listen to her car drive off, and I'd wonder, I wonder. And sometimes she'd be back in 2 days, which was a short stint. And there were times she wouldn't come back for months at a time. And, the social workers started, getting informed because of nice people that were concerned about my grandmother raising 2 kids. And eventually we went to the first of many foster homes. We went to a foster home. My brother was 6 and I was 7. And then my dad showed up one day, and I was 7 years old, and he had a Thumbelina doll in one hand and a mitt in the other, and he goes, hi, I'm Dad. And I thought, this is not going to work. We're not going to get along. Just from the get-go. He just wasn't working. And, my brother cried. He always wanted a dad, and they hit it off. And, I thought he was kind of mean, and it wasn't like he was mean. He was a man. He's big, and he had a big voice, and he scared me. And I love my mom. I was kind of a mama's girl. And so he took us to California, and he married a nice Mexican lady. And 30,000 people picked us up at the airport, and they were kissing and hugging and pinching. And I'm like, oh my God. And I liked him right off. It was like, oh, let's go to Uncle Al's. We go to Uncle Al's. There's a big party, and there's food and tamales and oh my God, and they got drunk, and they cried, and they laughed, and they danced, and then they fought, and they made up. I thought I like this family already. I loved them. My Tio was great. He and my dad were drinking buddies, and they'd go to the racetrack and get drunk and fall asleep on top of the cars. And I thought I loved them. I love alcoholics. I loved alcoholics before I became one. And they were exciting. And, all the women were mad at them, about to beat their heads. And I just thought they were funny. And, and unfortunately, the disease of alcoholism got worse, and there wasn't Al-Anon in that family. And when I left Oklahoma, I was 7 years old. I would not see my real mother again until I was 19. And that's alcoholism. And then one night I woke up, went to bed one night. My brother and I woke up the next day, and my stepmom was gone. And they said she went to go take care of my Tio Mondo. I didn't see her again until I was 18, because they escape alcoholism. And, I started thinking, what's wrong with me? Is something wrong with me? And my aunt and uncle, we went to Arizona and they took care of us. My dad was suffering from alcoholism and he was getting sicker and sicker with it. And we stayed with him for a while, and something magnificent happened to me when I was 10 years old. My father got sober in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it would change my life forever. In fact, tomorrow will be 38 years ago that my father got sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's pretty neat stuff. And I didn't know it was going to change my life, but it did. And, he wrote to them and he told them what he was doing. And so we came back to Los Angeles, and we were putting yet one more foster home. And his sponsor and it was kind of a painful decision. It wasn't an easy decision, but my aunt and uncle could not take care of us anymore. And we went to live in a foster home. It was a black foster home. And it was in what is now called South Central L.A., and we were living with this lady and her husband and son, and we were supposed to stay there 2 weeks, I guess, till a white foster home opened up or something of that nature. And, we liked it. We liked living there. We loved her. And, I immediately bonded with this lady, and we ended up living there 3.5 years. And, she was a good lady. She was just one of the many angels in my life, and she took care of my brother and I. And I asked her one day, why do you keep kids, And she said, because I was a foster child all my life, and I wanted to give back, someday give back what was given to me. And she was awesome, and her son, more kids came to the home. We had a little Indian boy, a Sioux Indian, Myron Fast Horse. I always said he had the coolest name. He was my baby. He was 18 months old. I was 10. I was the oldest of this group of kids. And then my foster sister, Hilda, she was a Mexican gal. She came to live there, and there was my brother and I. My foster mom called us her blue-eyed babies. And we were her very first foster children. And we would sit around the table. I always get a visual when I think of everyone, and we'd sit around the lunch table and eat lunch, and we looked like a meeting of the Junior United Nations. We didn't even know we were different colors until somebody told me I was. Went to school. I came home, I go, what's a honky? I didn't know what it was, and she told me, and then the next day I come home, what's a cracker? And, I got quite an education real fast, and, she said, Sheila, that's ignorance, and it's in the world, and I'm so sorry, but, I can't follow you around all the time. You have to learn to take care of yourself. And she said, and it got rough. It was pretty rough at times. And so she gave me the finer, she said, take your shoe off and smack somebody. I did too. And I learned how to fight. I was pretty good white. I became a crazy white woman, so they left me alone. That's a crazy white girl, so they left me alone. I started showing signs of insanity long before drinking. And, so if you act a little crazy, they'll stay away from you, And so, I pretty much did that, and I took care of those kids were like my kids, they were mine. Hilda was like mine. They were my kids. I was the oldest, so I felt a responsibility to them to take care of them, and, not on my watch. No one's getting beat up. I'll just take off I always wore shoes that had something hard on them, so I make sure to knock somebody's head off. I wasn't very big, and we were just buds. We would ride our bicycles forever. You can't do that today because it's too spooky of a world we live in. We'd ride our bikes. We'd be gone all day and eat lunch and have lunches, and it was just a good time in my life. It felt normal. As abnormal as it was, it felt normal. My dad, because of sponsorship, came to visit us in the foster home. He would come to visit, and he was going to meetings, and he went to this thing on Saturdays called the Yard, and he would tell us he would go to the Yard, and that's where Clancy would have all these people came together, and the men would play softball and the women would play volleyball, and then they'd cook lunch, and he would take us every once in a while, and I knew my dad was safe. And, I liked AA. I started babysitting, Eventually he married a nice lady in AA. She had 2 kids. He had 2 kids. It was not the Brady Bunch. Let me tell you what. They got together. I was sick. That was crazy. And, gosh, they tried, but good evening. And, she had a son who was dying of cystic fibrosis, and, she was just really trying to stay sober, and this baby was dying. It was just a hard situation, and, and I was so needy. It was like, love me, love me, love me. I just wanted someone to love me. And, she just wasn't capable of that. She was a kind woman. She tried, but she didn't know, she couldn't be a mom to me. And I wanted a mom. I just always wanted my mom. I always thought if I had my mom, I would be better. I would be smarter. I just felt like it was such a void in my life. And boy, that's a good thing to drink over. I drank over that for a good 10 years. That was a good one. That my mom, I never had my mom, And it just fueled my fire. Now, I have sponsored people I sponsor people today that had the childhood I only dreamt of. And they are as sick alcoholic as I am. I mean, so that is not my problem. There's a girl, her mom used to make her the coolest costumes for like Halloween and stuff. She had dance lessons and, oh my gosh, everything I always wanted. And she's as sick as I am, so that has nothing to do with it. I figured that out. But it was a great excuse to drink for many years, let me tell you what. And, he married this nice lady, and of course that didn't work out. And then we went to live, her sister said, we'll take Jimmy and Sheila in as foster kids, and they did. And we went down the street to live. My dad lived down the street from this lady, and so we went to live there, and she had 4 kids. She was a single mom, and her mother lived with her, and then she took us 2 in, and it was like, and I would always think no one cared about me, but I think for God, I had so many people that cared about me. And, I would hear this from early on, Sheila, just be a part of. You're always by yourself, or I love books, so I kind of escaped in books, and I just never fit in. I never felt right. I felt always so uneasy, and I felt very, very sorry for myself. I was a misery to be around, if you want to know the truth, and so prom time comes up. And, they're all kind of hoping I get asked because the misery will mope or something, and I got asked. This guy goes, you don't have a date? No, I don't have a date. You want to go to the prom? And I thought, oh, how romantic. Okay. And, and so, he asked me to go to the prom, and my aunt says, she takes me by myself to go get the dress. We went, and she took me a couple places, and we went, and she made a big deal out of it, which I thought was really, I look back on that now, that's real special. She had 4 kids to get to the prom. Plus me, so that's 5. And so, it was like she did all this, and she worked so hard, and I'm in trouble, though. I'm kind of getting in trouble. I'm smoking cigarettes, and I'm, back then, remember the vans, the cool stuff on the side, and nice Catholic girls didn't get in boys' vans and get rides home. You really nice girls didn't know I did. And, and so I'd show up and get dropped off at the corner in a van. Of course, the neighbors tell her, and she'd go, I told you not to get rides with boys in vans, and oh, geez. So I'm kind of in trouble at this point. And, I pick out this kind of low-cut, yellow, tight little cute dress, long, it's real cute. And she comes running out with this dress. Oh, look at this dress. I can still see it. It just haunts me, this dress, and it was like it had like an accordion neck, with like a ruffle up here, and it kind of cinched here and billowed out, with chiffon, and it had these giant green flowers all over. And it had it gets worse. It had this puff sleeve, and it kind of had a little ruffle right here, just ugly, and a satin bow thing. Oh my gosh! I sat down and poof, poof, and. I looked at that and I thought, I've kind of been pushing the envelope, and I want to live here. It'd be nice to have a place to live. So, that's the kind of problems I had then. I was worried that they'd ask me to leave. So I thought, I'll just say yes to this dress, and then, I'll be out of trouble, all my trouble I'm in. So I got the dress, and then she says, "Would you go to my hairdresser?" And I know, what a dummy. And I look back on that, and her daughters have never gone to her hairdresser to this day. I don't know why I said yes, but I go okay. I thought, how bad could it be? Now my hair was down to my waist then, and it was like you wore your hair long and straight, maybe curled at the ends on a real special occasion. And this lady puts all these rollers in my head, and then she put me under a dryer for 2 weeks, it seemed like. The tops of my ears are not quite right yet, let me tell you. And I was on fire. I'm on fire in here. And so we get out, and then she starts brushing this mess out. And she said, how do you want it? And I go, well, maybe like a little bit up right here and then down. And she kept putting my hair up and up and up. And my hair got this big. And then it went like a football. It just kept going, And I don't have enough self-worth to go, not, this isn't quite what I wanted. I didn't know what to say. I just was in shock, and I hated myself, and I'm thinking all these horrible thoughts, and my aunt comes running in and goes, oh, you look so beautiful. And then she had baby's breath, and then they're sticking this baby's breath. Yeah, insult to injury, So they're sticking the baby's breath, So me and my hair, we go out to the car. And we get in the car, and then we get in this car, we go home, I put the giant green flowered dress on, and I look in the mirror, and I'm a bush in bloom. I hate myself. I just can't even believe I look like this. And so then my date. 3 days before the prom, he bets a $100 bet, which is quite a bit of money back then. These guys bet him $100 that he would not bite the head off a live frog. Well, guess what? He bit the head off a live frog, stole Sister Sharon's favorite frog out of biology, and bit the head off, spit it out in the middle of lunch. And I wasn't near this situation. I saw something going on, but I just kind of ignored it. And they come running up. Sheila, the guy you're going to the prom with just bit the head off a live frog. And I go, can anything ever go right just once? I was just so upset. So here comes my date, and he doesn't go and get, grandma or grandpa's cool car. No, he's got a Dodge Dart, and he's telling me, he goes, it's a classic. Well, it is now, but it wasn't then. It was just old, And I, yeah, buddy, you're talking a dum-dum here, but he goes, watch this, and he goes, you don't even need keys to start it. I'm like, oh, beautiful. He's pushed a button and it started. Oh, he just thought this thing was so great. But he had champagne in the car. And my foster mother came. My dad came from down the street. They're taking pictures. Everybody's all cute. My cousins look like princesses. I look like a June bug. I hated myself. And my foster mom, it really was neat now that I look at it. But back then I was mortified. And my dad, he comes from down the street. Now I love my dad, but I don't tell him I love him. We were always at odds. And it was like, love me, but I do everything I can to push you away. And so, sometimes I'd be coming home from cheerleading practice. I'd be driving by and I'd wave. He'd be out watering the lawn. And one of my girlfriends would go, who's that? And I go, that's my dad. They go, your dad? And I said, yeah. And they said, your dad lives down the street from you? And I said, yeah, doesn't yours? The abnormal became normal at my life, And it did. It was like, yeah, doesn't yours? I just kind of thought, everybody's dad should, and it really worked in our relationship. The further he lived, the better we got along. And so he came down the street, and I don't want him to know this guy's bit the head of a live frog. So my little cousin Kelly comes running in, and he looks up like he just saw Johnny Unitas or somebody, and he goes, are you the guy that bit the head off a live frog? My dad goes, what? And he had this big voice, and that poor guy about died. And he goes, what did you say? I go, never mind, we need to go, bye. We run off into the Dodge Dart, We get in this car, and he's got champagne. And he doesn't have glasses. He's got those dumb plastic things. Now, I worked all night trying to get that puppy to have the bottom part. It wouldn't go in sync. I didn't look right. The car wasn't right. He wasn't right. And the champagne bucket and the cups weren't right. And, I'm trying to act like a lady, and he's pouring the champagne, and I'm trying to look like somebody out of a movie. And the bottom part of that thing kept falling off, and I'm sticking it back on, trying to act. And that's just horrifying when you're 15 years old. It was just end of the world. We get to the prom, nothing happens. I'm just okay. It was fine. A couple glasses of champagne. And then we went to the after parties. And what happened at the after parties is what happens to me. People kept coming up saying, let me mix you a little drink in my little glass. And I thought, I know about alcoholism. I know more about alcoholism at 15 than most people. I'm around you all the time. I've watched my father. I've watched my mother. I know what the disease is, and I know what recovery is. And so I was really kind of afraid of booze. I'd had sips of beer and stuff like that up to this point, but this is my first drunk. They kept making me tequila sunrises and margaritas and all these cocktails and fabulous things in this dumb little glass. And I kept thinking, I'm not going to get drunk because look how little this is. This is like a gulp. This is nothing. I had 150 of those puppies, and let me tell you what happened. My hair got long and straight. Those flowers flew off my dress, and frog lips started looking really good. Yeah. That kind of good. And he was I thought, oh, it's my prince, I thought I looked so pretty. I'll never forget how transformed I was. It was like something, and that's alcoholism. Clancy talks about a disease of perception, and nothing had changed that night except that I ingested alcohol inside me, and it changed my perception of reality. And I believe that's alcoholism. And that happened to me for many, many years until it didn't happen anymore. until my perception wouldn't change, until it was just insidious, and it would be in pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization in the morning. I woke up, I passed out, I blacked out, and I threw up that night. And that would be just, I didn't crave a morning drink the next day. In fact, I thought, I don't want to do that too much. That's bad. But I love the way I felt, but I don't want to get that sick. So you try to justify and rationalize. I try to justify and rationalize, that probably wasn't really a blackout, because Dad left the state. I didn't leave the state. I was at a prom. So it was probably more like a brownout. This is where my mind's going the next day, because I don't want to have a problem. It's probably a little brownout because Dad always, he ended up in another city. And it was just silly. I'm not going to be like them. I'm not going to be like them. The cry of the child of the alcoholics, I'm not going to be like them. No, I'm going to be worse. Thank you. And, I'm going to become hell right beforehand too. And so, I dated a guy in high school. My junior year, I dated the captain of the football team of all things, and he went on to play football for USC, and he went on to play football for the Raiders, and but he dumped me along the way, and I feel like I'm never good enough. It's never right. It never seems to work out, and I had so many high hopes and dreams that I put aside so many times. And I just would say, well, maybe I can't have that's okay. And then the more I drank, the less I would dream. It seemed as that I compromised my life and I compromised my dreams because I drank, And when I put something inside me that changes my perception of reality, I want more. Reality is just bad, And I didn't miss my mom so much. I remember that prom. All day I'd thought about her, my real mom, and I thought, wish she could see me. I wish she could be here. And I would think about her year after year and think about her a lot. And that night I remember my first drunk, I didn't miss her so much anymore. And that pain, it took that big hurt away. And I loved everything about booze. After I got out of high school, I became a waitress. I had an early morning shift that I knew I was going to have the next day. I stayed out way too late, drank way too much, got to work real early. I was so hungover, I thought I was going to kill myself. It was like, get me out of here. And this girl comes up and goes, are you all right? And I said, I've got the worst hangover. I said, I am just sick. She goes, here, take one of these. You'll be zipping around in no time. Oh, my God. I took one of those. I zipped around for 2 days. Oh, my God. Made a lot of money, too, by the way. Fastest waitress in town, And I about chewed my teeth still aren't right from that puppy. And it was like, this is fabulous. And then I realized if you did that and drank, you don't go into blackout, you don't get as much trouble. You can still see one thing in front of you. It was like, wow. It was like I found Eureka, And drugs are a part of my story, but I love the kind of drugs that make me go fast. I like to go fast still. I'm just kind of zippy anyway. And, but I like I like the kind of drugs that it can enable my drinking, that I can drink longer and more. And so that's, really very dangerous, actually. Now I think of it. Well, I got it worked then, so who cares? And I did that for many years, and I experienced a lot of things that women should not have to experience. I think that one of the things that when I sponsor women, one of the beauties of this program is that in our group, the men, leave the women alone so they can regain their dignity. And I had none when I got to this program. And I love the guys in our group because they're sponsored. They're very sponsored well. And the gentlemen are gentlemen, and they're learning to be that. And the ladies are trying to be ladies. I really always kind of wanted to be a lady. I really did. But I just somehow just missed the mark. And, I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and you gave me my dignity back one day at a time. And that was one of the things I missed the most, and the thing I never really had. And I always wanted self-esteem, and I heard Dawn say it last night. My sponsor said it to me. She said, well, if you want... I said, I think lack of self-esteem is one of my problems. And she said, really? If you want self-esteem, you're going to have to do esteemable things, Sheila. And wow, that cut that right there, I thought that sounded pretty good. I'm not sure where I heard it, but it sounded really good. And she'd say, you need to do esteem of things. And I said, okay, and if you want self-worth, do worthy things. And those simple phrases, they kept me going when I was new and today. I met, I always meet hymns. I love booze and boys. God, they're like soup and salad. Oh, Jesus. It's true. My husband is not alcoholic, nor is he in the program of Al-Anon. I say yet. My son's about to send us both to hell. But he is the only non-alcoholic man I've ever dated. I love alcoholic men. You guys nearly killed me, so I'll see you later. And I had all the fun I could possibly stand with y'all. And it just nearly killed me. We're like gasoline in a match. Poof! And the fight's on. And so when I got sober, I kind of figured that out. And I thought, I bring out the worst in alcoholic men, and I just need to stay the hell away from them, and I have. And I've left y'all alone, and everybody's happy. And and I get to live. Isn't that special? And, Sheila, my sponsor goes, Sheila, you are too sick for anyone in or out of this program. And you should not date until I tell you, for a very long time. And I did that. It begrudgingly, but I did it. And, she said, you have nothing to bring to the situation. You have nothing to bring but horrible baggage, and you need to clear up your stuff before you have nothing to bring to a relationship except sickness. And so she was right. And, because of the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, I got to clear a lot of that up and look at what ideal God would have for me in a mate. And those are the things that are so healthy that I had no clue of how to do it. And that's why I believe in sponsorships so strongly. My sponsor then and today are both... I don't make major decisions in my life without him. This was I've talked to my sponsor twice this week, because I was in situations that baffled me, and so I call her because I don't have the answers and I'm too emotionally involved in it. And she'll say, "Okay, this is what I want you to do," or "This is what I don't do anything." Love those answers. Sit still and go to meetings. Don't do a thing. Okay, and this, and she said, and then we'll both pray about it. And she's probably running to her sponsor. She's nuts. I don't know what to do with her. And I do that. And I'll say, let's pray about this. And I call my sponsor, Peg. And it's because if we share our experience, and if I don't have the experience of the solution, if I'm just in the problem with them, I have to go find the experience. And we share our experience, strength, and hope. My sponsor shares it with me. And so I really believe that. Like I said, booze and boys. I met a guy at a bar. When I was 19 years old, I went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous to watch my father get his 10-year birthday cake. Heard a speaker there, totally identified with her, and started going to meetings at the Pacific Group. I stayed sober 9 months. The pain of sobriety was too great, and I drank again. And that's it wasn't that it was I had everything. I was lots of activity, did a lot of stuff. I wasn't taking right action. I wasn't reading the book. There were a lot of things I wasn't doing, and I cannot stay sober on the fellowship alone. And so I drank again. And I had an 8-year slip. I did not come back to AA for 8 years, and that's when, it just really, really went down from there. If there's a line you cross over, that would be about the time I did that. My drinking wasn't fun anymore. It was a necessity, and it was just to maintain some sort of sanity, to stop the screaming madness. And as I've heard so many times... I met a hymn at a bar. I don't know where you all meet your hymns. I don't go to the PTA, that's for sure. And, I'm a bar fly. I love the bars. I love the tinkling of the glass. I like the bad smell. I like the whole thing about it. I just do. I think it's the most fabulous place on earth when I'm drinking. And, and it's just you go in and you think you're all cute, and the more you drink, the cuter I got, and the better you look good too. And I could stand you all, and it just was it was crazy. And I asked the guy to dance. He said no, and I thought, got to have him. By God, I did too. We're relentless when we're crazy. And so by the end of the evening, he had taken me outside because he thought I was too drunk. Imagine that. And he sat me on this car, and I fell flat on my face. I just fell down, and he picked me up, and we spent the next 2 weeks together. And that's how I date. And I had a lot to learn when I got here, let me tell you what. And I just thought it was love, and I was so obsessed, and that this is it, and he's the one, and blah, blah, blah. And, in a while, I turned up pregnant, and he didn't want to be, and we tried to stay together, and he left when I was 8 months pregnant, gave birth to this little baby boy, and I absolutely adored him. I thought he was the most wonderful thing in the whole world, and I was going to be a good mom, and I was going to change. And if you'd given me a lie detector test that day, I would have passed, because I meant everything. That child, I bonded with him immediately. I felt love. I felt like I could do anything, and that he fixed me for about 2 weeks, and then the insanity starts to return, and I'm feeling fidgety, and I'm irritable, and I'm restless, and I've got to have a drink, and I've got to go, and I've got to run, and I'm a runner, and I go places, and and I start leaving him with babysitters and doing the same thing to him that my mother did with me, and then the cycle keeps going. Get on the merry-go-round, and I just kept going, and I love this child with all my heart, and if love could get an alcoholic sober, I would have been sober. People loved me so much, and if the love for our children could get us sober, I know there's many women that love and many men that love their children, but I could not stop drinking from my child. It didn't have anything to do with those kids. It had everything to do with my disease. It's bigger than anything. It's bigger than the love of your child, the love of your parents, the love of anything. And I learn that more and more every day. I learn that more and more. I never meant any of the things I did. I drank and I used drugs while I was pregnant. It's a horrible part of my story. It's my most unfavorite thing, but I always tell it because I don't ever want to forget where I've come from. I don't ever want to get so wonderful that I don't remember what kind of a woman I really can be in my cups. That's who I am. I'm an alcoholic. The person that you see before you today is because of the grace of God. And I don't ever want to get so fabulous that I don't remember how bad I used to be. And women shared that with me, and that's the reason I can share it today. I always want to share that so that I sat and felt different in meetings for a long time because of that horrible thing that I carried inside of me. And a woman shared it with me one day, and I was absolutely free. And, it's just one of those realities. My sponsor, it took me a long time, Peg. I got Peg Martin as my sponsor when I was 8 years sober, and because my sponsor stopped going to meetings, and she joined church, and she just faded away. And one day I said, "Are you going to go to meetings anymore?" And she said, "No, it says in the book that we need a spiritual solution, and I have one." And I said, "Well, aren't you?" "Well," but I said, "You told me if I didn't do this and this and this." And she said, "Sheila, this isn't the same for everybody." And I said, "Okay." But I was really active in AA because she taught me well. She taught me well. And then I got another sponsor for a while, and then I got Peg Martin, and she's one of the most active women I know in Alcoholics Anonymous. She's the light ahead of me. She is, when I can't feel God, I can hear her. She's louder than my head, and she lights my way. And I've needed her so much, I went to her with this problem about feeling so very guilty about my son, and she said to me, "Sheila, it says in our book that there comes a time in the alcoholic's life where they lose the choice. They lose the choice whether they're going to drink or not. They just drink. Unfortunately, you were pregnant." And she said, "Yes, I've heard stories, too, of women who were alcoholic as you are, but they'd say in their story, and then I quit drinking." So I thought there was like alcoholic and then scum alcoholic. I'm in the blah, So I'm separating myself from you because I can still do that, And she said, "You're no different. You were just in a different phase of your disease. You were at the jumping off spot. Unfortunately, you were pregnant, And if you're in that place, there's no choice anymore. You can't say, well, I'm going to choose not to drink today because I'm pregnant. I'm that's just not me. And that's my story. And she said, cling to the thought, Sheila, that our darkest past is the greatest possession we have to help others to have happiness for others. Just cling to the thought, yes. And to avert misery and death and help them to have happiness for others and to help their families. And, my darkest past has been the greatest possession I have because I've shared it. And I think when I share with someone, it doesn't make it feel like it was all horribly in vain. When someone comes to me and they have an issue about their mother, I can give them a solution, and it feels like it's not in vain anymore. That I went through those foster homes and I went through all those things that maybe someday I could help someone stay here in Alcoholics Anonymous so their daughters and their sons don't go to foster homes. My children have never seen a foster home because of you, because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm overblessed and overpaid. Absolutely overblessed and overpaid. My kids they can't even believe I lived like that, and I'm so glad. They love you, though. They've been raised around you, and you have loved my children, and you've loved my home. And I get so overwhelmed we were talking, Mark and I were talking, and I said, I'm so lucky. You know, early on in AA, I caught fire with you. I just caught on fire with Alcoholics Anonymous, and I've been so blessed that I stayed. Because when the fire kind of goes down, you know, I keep getting busier and busier in AA, and then all of a sudden it's just like somebody throws a little gasoline on me, you know, and I get all on fire again. And, you know, the girl's like, oh, God, she's on fire again. Oh, my God, you know. Here, we're going to be doing some more work, you know. You know, and, you know, but I've always gone to meetings, and I've always been a member of my home group, and those are some simple things, but I've always been connected to you, and I've always wanted to be able to stay. And life has never gotten that good. I had this baby, and life just got real bad. And my father had moved to Oklahoma. He had married a black belt Al-Anon. When I was 23 years old, my mother died of alcoholism, and that's another part of my story. I went to see her, and she was dying, and she was in a coma when I got there, and in Dallas, Texas, and she was in an indigent hospital, and she was by herself, and she was in a coma. She didn't even know I was there. And the next day I sat with her, and the nurse said, read to her. She'll be able to hear you if you know, that kind of thing. And the next day, the doctor was examining her. I went outside. Her sister was there, and I'm just feeling really down because I don't know these people. You left me a long time ago. Where did you all go? Of course, I'm not saying any of that. But, you know, it was just a sad time. And the nurse came up and said, you need to come in right now. And I ran in there, and she was sitting up. And she said, will you forgive me? Yeah. And I said yes. And my mom and I got 2 really neat days together. And, you know, I just think that was God. And I wasn't sober then. And I remember somebody told me she lived down the street. They gave me a key. One of her people in the tenants in the building that she lived in. She lived in a Social Security building kind of thing. And I remember going through all her stuff trying to find some booze to drink because I was so crazy. You know, here my mother's dying of cirrhosis, and I'm looking for some booze to drink. And, you know, my mom, I had to leave because he said she could be this way 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, you know, but she's, you know, her liver's gone. And so I left and made, you know, plans to come back in a few weeks, and my mother died all alone that Friday, Good Friday, by herself in an indigent hospital. I always felt so bad about that. And, you know, that's alcoholism. That's where it takes us. And, you know, it was just a sad time. My mother never meant to be that. My mother was a registered nurse. She was a surgical nurse. She was absolutely gorgeous. Had a personality. She made you lie. Oh, she just lit up. She's just a fun lady. And, you know, I hear women in AA stories, and I always think, oh, I wish she had gotten sober. She went to a meeting, and she started going to some meetings. I remember a long time ago when I was like 5. I think everybody made her go, and I remember, I think about that today, and I hope someone welcomed her. I hope someone said, here's a cup of coffee, and you could sit by me. You know, I hope that happened. I don't know. You know, so I know I'm responsible because if your daughter comes in, I'll make sure she'll have a cup of coffee and she can sit by me. I promise. Because I can't help my mother anymore. I can't help my very own son who's dying of this disease as we speak, who's got it really bad. He's already overdosed, and he's really, really bad. But I'll help yours if they come in, I promise. You know, because I believe I'm that responsible for that. I don't want anyone to leave our group that feels like they haven't been welcomed. The woman that came up to me in a meeting when I finally walked in the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous in Norman, Oklahoma, she gave me her phone number and said, if I can ever do anything for you, please let me know. And I said, oh, okay. And I'm so glad she wasn't jealous or worried that I was going to steal her husband. You know, I'm glad she wasn't competing with me. I'm glad she just wanted to be my friend. You know, she wasn't so threatened by another woman in the room. You know, and that's something I really am nuts about with the girls I sponsor. You know, I don't care if she looks like $1 million. You're going to go over and be her friend. Yeah, we're going to worry about that kind of stuff. And especially the ones that come in that I love. They're my very favorite. That I get to, like, pick lice out of their hair. Oh, just love them. They love me. I mean, my God. They're just the sickest ones in the room. They'll just beeline right for me. Okay, here we go. My life is no longer my own. And, you know, and it's like, they just, you know, they'll come up twitching and say, I love them. God, like, yeah, real one, you know. I love the real ones. The ones that come up and go, well, I'm not sure if I'm alcoholic. I'll go talk to Sally because I don't know. No, I can't do that, you know. You're not ready for me yet, because I'll probably scare you to death, you know. And when I got here, I knew I was something. I'll tell you what, I was out of my head. And so, what happened was I ended up living on the floor with my son, and this lady let us live on the floor in her house, and she caught me coming in one night. I was really, really sick. I'd started getting sores all over me, and I was doing a lot of drugs that kept me up all night, and I would drink all the time. I was drinking all the time. She said, you've got sores on you and your legs. You don't even see how you're starting to look, and I'm very frightened for you. And what I would do is come sneak in about 6 a.m. and lay down for a minute and then get up like I'd been there all night. Hello. And she caught me coming in one morning. She said, if it weren't for your son, you wouldn't live here. I wouldn't let you stay here. And she said, I know your mother's dead, but you need to call your dad or something. And I did. And my dad, he was doing a fifth step. And she said, his wife, she's a black belt, Al-Anon, she said, but we'll call you right back. Well, I went and got drunk. It was like, whoa, that's scary. I'm about to admit something. I don't know what I'm going to admit, but I'm going to admit something. And the next day, they got in touch with me, and my dad sent me a one-way, non-refundable, non-cashable, non-anythingable, I checked ticket. He's a smart alcoholic, wasn't he? He sent me that, and he said, maybe you can come out here and get your life together. He didn't ask me too many questions. He didn't, he didn't, I don't know. They both did so well. It wasn't like they wanted to strip me of my dignity. They knew something was terribly wrong, but they didn't need a lot of questions. And they just said, come here. And I moved to Norman, Oklahoma, and 2 months later I got sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. It was a hard 2 months. I went there thinking, well, it'll be different there. I always think it's going to be different there. It's like wherever you go, there you are. Just bring you with you. If you don't change you, nothing will change. It's just, and that was me. It was like, if I just get this, or if I can just do that. I'm always trying to make my outsides different so my insides will feel okay. And I was always judging my insides with your outsides. And, today I don't have to live like that anymore because, my insides sometimes don't feel so good, and that's just the way it is. But I can just act better than I feel. And that's what I've learned to do here. I just act better than I feel. It's not like I'm being fake. I mean, the people in my home group, they always know when I'm falling apart. I'm easy read. I'm an easy read. But it's just that, I can at least be in the greeting line, even if my heart's breaking. I can get in a car and go to the airport and come to Antelope Valley, even when my heart's breaking. And my heart's been broken this week. I've had a very heartbreaking week, and all I knew to do is come and be with you, because I just have to do what the next right thing is. And I put my dog to sleep beginning of last week. I loved her so much. I had her since I was 2 years sober. She was 17 years old. I love that dog. I never had a dog. And because of you, I had a dog for a long time. And it was my son's dog, but, Mom always takes care of him. And my son loved that dog so much. And, my son's really sick. He's real sick. And 2 months ago, he called me and told me that he was in a detox nut ward, and he had OD'd. He had shot up, and his heart stopped. And he had been going to meetings. He almost had 2 months, and he put that dog to sleep. And a friend of ours came over and put it to sleep at our house, and he buried her in the backyard. It was very sad. It broke my heart. And then his wife, who's, she lives with us, and my daughter-in-law lives with us. She's going to Al-Anon, 18 years old, and she's got 9 months in Al-Anon. She's trying, and they're trying to work this thing back, and it's just so painful to watch them. And her family had a family reunion and said, "You're not invited. You're not welcome, Brad." And he was done. I saw it come over him. I can see people leave AA before they leave. He came up to me at a meeting and said, "Did you know anything about this?" I said, "No, I didn't, honey. I'm sorry. But your sponsor's right across the room." Your sponsor's right across. He was right across the room, and he didn't go talk to him. Okay, we're seconds and inches away from the solution, and he was done. I saw his face. I saw it come over him. It was like, I can't take any more. And I've been there. I have so been there, and I couldn't do anything except say a prayer. And I don't know I don't even know where he is tonight. I haven't seen him, and he's off on another drunk, and but you just get in the car. You just get in the car and you go to your meetings. And my daughter-in-law goes, well, what are we going to do? And I said, no, there's nothing we can do, but we can pray. And you call your sponsor and I'll call mine. And it's real hard, my daughter-in-law watching her little heartbreak. I have a 8-month-old granddaughter who looks just like me, by the way. I think it's pretty funny. I told them I'd haunt him forever. They all go, she kind of looks like you. I'm like, it's good. I wished it. I willed it. And she's my sweet baby. My youngest son, I married a nice guy, he's the best guy. I married a man that is just, he has principles and he has a program and he doesn't even have a sponsor. It really hacks me off too, He just does the right thing. Oh, well, nothing we can do about it right now. And he goes, I'm like, good God. I've got to sweat it out and cry and freak out and then call somebody, and he's like, he'll look over and go, have you called Peg? He loves my sponsor, by the way, How's Peg doing? What does she think about Nebraska this year? He'll slip something in about football. Okay, I'll call her. And, he's a good, kind man, and he's my example. He's my example of just doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. He just does it. He helps others. He helps the people I sponsor out. He's done nice things for people that I sponsor, and he doesn't even have to, not to save his life, just because he's a good guy. And I'm absolutely blessed by having a man like that in my life that cares about. He puts everyone before him, everyone, and it's not even an effort. Now, for me, it's effort. Aren't I wonderful? I just put everyone before me today. I drive down the street. Oh, it's so good. You watching this? I'm crazy, It's like, good gosh, the ego will never go away. Please go away, Mr. Ego. And, I've watched him. He adopted my son, Brad, and that's been the only dad he's ever really known. And he loves him like it's his son. He's never not treated him like it was his. When we got married and we had another baby. And when I was 6 months pregnant, I found out that I was having twins. And I had a boy and a little girl. And in my 7th month, the little girl died. And it was probably one of the hardest things to walk through in sobriety because, I drank over Tuesday. I'm telling you, Tuesday, got a drink. And, this was horribly painful. And I went for an ultrasound, and they said, well, there's something wrong with this baby. And I was sick. And I kept thinking, a miracle. It's going to be a miracle. Something miracle is going to happen. And they said, we just need to concentrate on the well baby. And they sent me to a specialist on that coming Monday. And I went to the specialist, and he said, I'm so sorry she didn't make it through the weekend. And I had to carry her until the very end and then deliver both those babies. And that was one day at a time, I won't tell you that. And, but Alcoholics Anonymous showed up at my house because I eventually had to go on bed rest, and I did not miss meetings. And in fact, I had 1 or 2 a week brought to the house, and I had meetings on the phone with people. And, you all were there, and you're a great example to my husband of what AA is, what it really is. And we lost that little girl, and Danny was born. My Daniel was born. He's healthy. He's a great kid. He's 13 years old now. And, he loves his brother. And it was horrible to tell him that his brother had OD'd. Oh, that's hard stuff. And he got a tear in his eye and he said, he's a dummy. I said, that's pretty good. I'm going to say this. I don't think Daniel's alcoholic. I'll tell you why. I said to him, Danny, I know you're upset about the dog and your brothers. I said, we need to talk about this. He goes, I don't want to talk about it. He never wants to talk about it. And I said, sometimes I heard that if you share your pain, it cuts it in half. It's like I'll take half of it because I feel okay right now. So we'll just cut it right in half. And it lessens it if you share your pain with someone. He goes, well, I don't want you to have it. Now, I know the Al-Anons must identify with that. So, there we are. I don't want you to have it. Good Lord. And and he'll say things to me like, Mom, where are your keys? And I go, they're in my purse. We'll be getting out of the car. Show them to me. That was when he was 10. Come on. I'm not that organized. And, he's got organizational skills. I just know he's not one of us. I just know he's not. Oh, please, And so, like I said, life has just never gotten so wonderful in AA that that I've ever had to leave you. When I was 11 years sober, my dad and I had 11 great years in AA together. I love my father. I came to love him because I took loving actions. I was so angry at my father when I got sober, it was just ridiculous. Everything was his fault. My sponsor, when I got sober, I had to live with him for a while with my son, Bradford. And she said, you have to do 2 nice things for your dad every day. Well, I didn't want to do half of a nice thing, let alone 2. And so I said, okay. She said, you got to tell me what they are. And I said, all right, I'll put on his water for tea because he drank hot tea every morning, and I'll bring him his paper. She said, okay. Every morning I would get up and I would do those 2 things, rain, shine, sleet, or snow. And those are the 2 things we did. And Dad and I, the only thing we could talk about was news, weather, and sports. We gave him my love of sports, so we'd sit and talk about the Dodgers or the Sooners, or and we could have that kind of a conversation. It was always very good. One morning I got up and I was doing my thing and making his tea and going to get his paper, and I looked over and he was on the couch, sitting on the couch, and he was reading his big book. And for some reason that really touched me. And I thought, well, he really does do this. And I had known a lot of the guys he sponsored would come around and stuff, and I thought, the thought came to me, if they think he's so neat and wonderful, why can't I see that? And I asked God to start changing me. But He changed me because I took some actions toward change, and then God changed my heart. I don't have that kind of power. I can take actions, but I don't have the power to change my own heart. And I believe that God can do that. But I must do my part. God will do His part, but I have to do my part. And so I started taking loving actions toward my father. I absolutely fell in love with my dad. And I just... When he got diagnosed with cancer, I remember I went out to California because they had all moved back to California. They left me in Oklahoma. Can you believe that? And I'm still there. They kept thinking I was going to leave, or leave him with the children or the child. And oh my gosh, I'm still there. And so I went to California to visit him, and he said, are you okay? I was sitting outside on the porch, and I said, no, Dad, I'm not. I said, I feel like we finally got it all together, and you have to go. And he said, I know. He said, I know how you feel. I've been where you've been. And he said, but if 449's right, we have to be in some acceptance here. And he said, I want you, he said, I know you're going to grieve and I know you're going to be sad, but I want you to stay on the firing line of life. He said, you help all the women that you can in AA. And he said, and I'll be watching. He said, you're a great, precious gift to me. And he said, and I'm passing the torch to you. He said, I know that you'll do well with it. And that's what the old-timers do to us in AA. They start passing the torch to us. And it's time to me to look and see, what am I doing with my torch? And that's my responsibility, to make sure that the coffee's on, the lights are on, traditions are done. The traditions are active and very alive in my group, and we keep those things together. And then I pass it on exactly the way that I was given it, and I've been given it so incredibly well by some fabulous, fabulous people in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I don't ever want to be so wonderful that I have too many PTA meetings to be at or too much stuff to do that I can't help the new lady that comes in because my life's gotten so good. They're just going to have to come sit at the ball game. We'll do a fist step there. It'll be fun. Those ladies will flip out. I just love it when I bring my girls, some of them have tattoos. So, yeah. Mrs. Armstrong's a little strange. Yes, she is. But she knows baseball, so hush. Well, one of the things you always taught me was to get in the car and to go the extra mile. And you all have taught me more things than I would ever have done. I'm a quitter. Easy. Quit. That's hard. Got to quit. I'm a great starter. Lousy finisher. And we were going to this, my dad, before he died, it was his AA birthday, and it was the International. And I went out a day early, even though I really needed to be at work. I didn't have to be there till the next day. I went a day early because it was his AA birthday. It was his 29th birthday. And I thought, well, I'll just go and be at his birthday. And I went because you all taught me to do stuff like that. And I went and I kept, and my mind was going, well, next year is 30th. It's going to be a big deal then. You don't have to, I was going back and forth. And I just thought, no, just do it. And I watched his sponsor, Clancy, give him his 29th AA birthday cake. And it was really a neat night. And we went to the International. And my dad and I danced in the aisle. And it was a fabulous time. It was in San Diego, and it's an incredible memory in my heart. We had the most fun. And my dad loved to have fun, and he'd start fun if there was no fun. There must be fun wherever he was. And Jim's here, and Jim knew my dad, and my dad started conferences, and he was such a good drunk, a fun drunk. And he was a fun, sober drunk. And, I was so grateful. And on the way home from the meeting that we went to before we went to the International, he said, "Sis, ride with me. Call me Sis." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "I want to tell you something. I'm really sorry I never got your braces." And I said, "What?" And he said, "I never got your braces. And I feel really bad." He said, "You always had that sweet little face and those crooked old teeth." He said, "Oh, well, thanks, Dad." And and I said, "But, Dad," I said, "I really have kind of thought about getting them. I know I'm old now, but," I said, "I have kind of thought." He goes, "Well, let me know when you do, and I'll help you out." And I said, "Okay." I go, "It's on the list. It's far down on the list." And my dad, a year later, was dead before his 30th AA birthday. He died of cancer. And I was at his 29th, his very last AA birthday, because you all told me, just go, just do it. So what if you can't, you take off one more day of work, because of this incredible program that teaches me the things that I go the extra mile. So I saw my dad take his last AA cake because of you, because of the things you taught me. I went and got my braces 2 years after he died. I went in and I got braces on. I walk out in the parking lot. I show my teeth to this guy, and I say, "I got my braces on." And he said, "Let me know." And so then I start thinking, which is, oh, my God, this is the worst part of my life is my brain. And isn't it? Oh, my God. It's just walk around with it all the time. And so I start thinking, I wonder if he can really see my braces. I wonder if there's heaven. I wonder if he's in heaven. There's probably not heaven. It's probably all dark. Oh, it is. And this is from me going to the car. And you're getting a glimpse of what I live with 24/7, okay? But that's just me going to the car. And I'm like, so I think I've got to call somebody. I'll call somebody I sponsor. They're good for 15 minutes. And she was true to her word. "Hi, how are you?" Blah, 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 blah. Oh, it's great. I'm getting out of me. "I love you, love you. You don't even know what you're doing." I went on and on about her problems, and we got her all fixed. And then I felt better. 2 days later, I went to this it's a women's facility, and it's out in the middle of nowhere in Oklahoma, and I had been already committed to go. We got lost. We had never been there before. It was out in the middle of the woods. We kept getting to the men's facility. They had 2 facilities, but they were far apart, but we couldn't get to the women's facility. And everybody said, "Sheila, it's way past the meeting. We're way late." We had no way to contact them. And they said, "We should go home." I said, "No." Someone said, "Let's go back to the men's facility." And I said, "Okay, we'll go back to the men's facility. We'll get directions, call over there and tell them we're on our way and we're sorry that we're late." Well, we did that. We went over there. We did all that. It would have been so much easier to go home and tell them, "So we're sorry. We'll see you next week," We went over there, and I said, "Can we still do our hour?" And they said, "Nope, you've got 20 minutes, and that's all you got." So we did a panel instead of doing the step meeting we were going to do. So each person got 5 minutes. And for some reason, I shared about getting my braces on. And we were in a semicircle, kind of like this here, and there was like 60, 70 women in this place. And I shared about, that, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. And if something's not right in my life today, that I am responsible for getting it that way. And, my parents did the best they could. But if that I, tried to clean house and do the right thing, that, things would come to me. But I needed to do Alcoholics Anonymous. And, I was kind of talking like that. And I said, this week I got my braces on. And I said, my dad really wanted me to have braces. And I said, and I hope, I'm still doubting, I hope he danced in heaven. And all of a sudden, straight across from me, this woman was sitting there, and I noticed her T-shirt. And I said, and she's been sitting here in front of me for the whole meeting. And I said, "Where did you get that shirt?" Now, I don't normally share like that in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, so the girls I sponsor are all looking like she's had a mini stroke. They're like, and I said, she goes, "Out of the donation closet." I go, "Stand up." Now, she probably thinks I'm accusing her of something. And she stands up. She goes, "I swear, I got it out of the donation closet." And I said, "Turn around." And she turns around. Now, these girls are looking at me like, "Oh, somebody stop her, stop her." And she's turning around. And I said, "Honey," I said, "you have my father's plumbing shirt on." And she said, "What?" And I said, "You're wearing my father's plumbing shirt. It said Jim Shaw Plumber on it." And I said, "Not only has that not been in business for 2 years because he's been dead, when it was in business, it was in Los Angeles, California, and not Norman, Oklahoma." And I stopped talking because I knew. And she said, "Well," and I said, "It's fine, honey. Sit down." It's a good thing it wasn't me. I would have ripped it off, Wow, I don't want this. I don't want spooky shirt on. Anyway, I'm so weird. Anyway, so I was just, I knew. And I knew, and this girl came up and she said, Sheila, I think God let your dad see your braces. And I said, I think you're right. And the neat thing that happened is that not only did I know that God was allowing Dad to see something that was so special to us, but I knew there was heaven. And all my doubts went away. And I believe there's a window in heaven. I believe there's a window, and I believe that every so often when we're doing something like setting up a meeting, or we get to read how it works, or we just come to visit, I believe that there's a window in heaven. And I believe that when someone we love has been up in heaven, has been taken away, and they see you doing something that's real special, I think God calls them to the window and says, look down there. She's at the Antelope Valley Roundup, and it's all okay. Look down there, She's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. He's listening. Look at him. He's over there doing a fifth step with the sponsor. He's going to be okay. And one of the neat things is that, you all taught me to go the extra mile. And had I not gone the extra mile that night, I'd turned around, I would have missed the blessing. I would have missed one of the most incredible blessings in my life. One of the things that just was life-changing for me. One of the neatest things that's happened in the last couple of years is I got a call that there were sightings of my brother who lives in L.A. in meetings. My brother had not talked to me for 2 years. He would not answer phone calls, but I called him every Sunday and left a message. Hi, Bub, I love you. It's your sister. Give me a call. I did that for 2 years, one day at a time, for 2 years on every Sunday. I was really resentful, too. And I really was. My sponsor made me do it. I said, that little SOB needs to call me back. I used to, if I came to L.A. to speak or do something or visit, I'd leave a present on his doorstep. I'd knock on his door. He would never, for 2 years, I had no contact with him. And it was hard. And I knew he was in the grips of alcoholism. And people called me one day and said, I don't know if I should tell you this, but I saw your brother at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in, South Bay or something. I said, you're kidding. I said, I'm not. I think you're crazy. And they said, I swear it was him. I said, okay, well, then we'd hear another sighting. And then one day, about 4 months after he got sober, he was sober 4 months, and he called me and he said, I just wanted to tell you that I'm sober at Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm going to meetings. And he said, and I know I'm not on my 8th or 9th step, and I hope, I hope that you always call me every Sunday. He said, I used to sit and listen, and I listened to your phone call. And I would sit and wait for it. And I'm sorry, I just could never pick up the phone. I am so grateful that I did those things and didn't leave some hideous message that I'll have to make amends for. Good God. Although I thought of it. And it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what I do. That's what my sponsor says. But I didn't. And you all taught me those things. Just do some of these things, get my ego out of the way and my pride, and just try a little. And so one day at a time, I got to go to a roundup last year. My brother had 5 months of sobriety. And I was with him. And we it was the first time we ever been to a roundup together. And because of you and Alcoholics Anonymous, we got to spend the weekend together. And, he came to me and said, you talk about staying in the middle of A and you won't fall off the edge. And I said, yeah. And he said, I'm on the edge. And he said, I really want to go to the Pacific group, but I just don't know if I can be that committed. And I looked at him and I said, your very life depends on being that committed. It absolutely just depends on it. And I said, God's not going to give you any more you can handle, and I think it'll all work out. And I said, but you're going to have to try it. You're going to have to do what you have to do for yourself. I just go to meetings and stay sober. I'm happy whatever you're doing. And these guys from the Pacific group, and they found out he was there, and they started inviting him, and he went golfing, and he had a really good time, and they surrounded him. Sometimes we have to go to them. They don't always run to us and beg for love and give me the 12 steps. Sometimes we have to surround them. I wasn't begging for anything when I got here except, a cup of coffee. And so they kind of surrounded him, and at the end of that weekend, on Sunday morning, I looked over in the corner, and my dad's sponsor had his arm around him, and my brother had asked my father's sponsor to be his sponsor, and I just had a sense that everything was all right for that day. And my brother hated AA. He resented everything about Alcoholics Anonymous, and I kind of knew. I think maybe it was one of those times that my father got to look down at the window and see his sponsor, who had helped him live a wonderful life in Alcoholics Anonymous, help his son.
And so I just don't want to miss a thing. I got to stay here. And maybe if you have somebody in your group that comes in, I have to remember this, that I don't just sponsor people. I sponsor someone's daughter. I sponsor someone's mother. I sponsor someone's aunt, someone's friend. You know, there's someone's in my life. I love them. I love them. I get to meet their moms and dads, and they're glad they're in a safe, well-lit place. And it's my responsibility to keep Alcoholics Anonymous a very safe and well-lit place. Thank you.